Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Cherokee Shuffle analysis series. This is the third and final video where we're going to be analyzing my backup from the Cherokee Shuffle from my Festival Banger series. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's take a look at these first 8 measures. Okay, cool. So what is happening? This is actually kind of complicated, but again, this I especially didn't work out. Like the past 2 videos, those solos, I had definitely, like, from time to time in my life, worked out all those little, like, the melodic licks, like the Bill Keith stuff, the Allison Brown lick, the Bailiff Flex scales. This is the kind of thing that I actually did not work out at all, and I've improvised. And kind of like what I would like to do with my life is kind of show the process by which this stuff can be improvised. Because playing rhythm banjo or just playing, like, backup banjo is just so, that's kind of where it's at. You know, and if you're roll-based and you kind of know where the chords are and you know, if you know what the melody is, you can generally, like, play some really hit backup that people are going to be like, yeah, man. So anyways, let's take a look at this. Cool. So the first measure, any one of my students is going to know exactly what that roll is. That's the Bob Dobalina, just the vanilla A1 Bob Dobalina. Thumb and then a double thumb forward. Yeah, so yeah, and then boom, that follows into another Bob Dobalina. Except that one's not purely a forward roll. That's kind of like a forward. That right there is a middle reverse. So again, this is like really bread and butter backup stuff that is improvisable. Remember, you want to use those 8th notes at the top of the Bob Dobalinas to give yourself like a rhythmic anchor, and then like those 16th notes. Ba ticka taka ticka, ba ticka taka ticka da. Not too flashy, but if you don't have this stuff down, people are going to hear it. So having this stuff down, just like the Bob Dobalina, you have the 8th note at the top into a handful of 16th notes, is really going to, you know, put wind in your sails. Okay, cool. So now what happens here? Another Bob Dobalina, except, yeah, it's the same roll as this one. Okay, so now what's going to be... Okay, so that's kind of like an isorhythmation of the... if you think about yourself as a bass player, you're going from the root down to the 6th, which is like G down to E. So that's just an isorhythmation of this. Okay, cool. This one I have very cleverly notated. I can't believe, like, this is improvised. Yeah, that's pretty hip. But all it is it's called a 4 in a row roll, like that guy, because you're just going across the 4 and then back. So it's basically it's a square roll: thumb, index, thumb, middle. If you practice this stuff, you'll get it down. It's actually an interesting way to play backup on waltzes too, with that guy. That wasn't a waltz, that was more like a jig, but like, anyways, this may look complicated, but I guess I was in the mood to play around with those. And they're really improvisable because they're square rolls. And then that guy, what I have highlighted is a palindrome, so don't be intimidated. That right there it's just a square roll. Okay, now let's take a look at this measure. Okay, so what I like to do, like how I understand like the first 2 beats, that guy right there is a square roll. It's thumb 1, thumb 2 with this kind of like Bob Dobalina. I mean, that whole thing is kind of like Bob Dobalina, Mr. Bob, that rhythm. So when you play that guy, it's just like what I have highlighted there. It's just a prefix to the square roll. So I hope that makes sense. So yeah, it's just like a little thumb 2. It's like a bum ditty. It's like a prefix that you add to a square roll. And again, a lot, like now that I'm looking at it, what I was doing here is I was going on autopilot with a lot of square rolls. And then this guy right there, any one of my students is going to be able to tell you that right there is a forward-backward roll. It may not be like the standard roll, but that right there, you're going like the bass line. Sorry, that's the melody you're isorhythmating. Right, so that's happening there. It's an 8-note roll. Again, thumb forward right there, middle reverse right there. Boom, into the 5 chord. So that guy right there, this is like kind of like a fancier guy, but again, this can be improvised. Those first 2 beats may be intimidating. Be intimidated not, because it's just 2 square rolls. You can just go go ham on those square rolls, and this is just a way to outline it. Again, like the chord really is like, it's like those 2 notes. You're going from D to D. And then we do the 3-0-2 lick, of which I spoke, I think, in the past 2 videos. Again, I wrote it in on this one, but the thumb goes to the 2nd string. I just like that as opposed to... It's hip. It's kind of like this. It's the Scruggs style secret. If you know, you know. Okay, and then looks like this measure is the same as that one. It's just 2 Bob Dobalinas. And then what's happening here? Kind of like a 3-0-2 thing. That's going to be improvisable because it's a forward roll right there with a pivot note into a middle reverse roll, which ends on the downbeat. Okay, cool. This roll right here, we kind of talked about this roll. It's going to be the same as basically that one. It's a square roll with a prefix as a bum ditty. So there's like a thumb 2, and then with the melody note right there. You know, but like again, this is an isorhythmation. There's no real melody there. You're just going like, and then you're outlining it with a. You're going from like the 6 minor to the 4, and again, you're playing the. It's kind of an important part that I should talk later about. But basically, you're outlining boom. That's the root of the chord. You're adding some fluffy rolls into boom, the root of the chord. And again, the bass player is just gonna be going like. And you're kind of imitating that, but with fluffy rolls. Which again, it's a square roll with a bum ditty suffix. So bum, ba-daka, ba-booka, ba, right? So again, 16th notes. Okay, cool. Again, looks like this measure is more or less repeated, except that middle reverse roll differs from this middle reverse roll in that the index finger goes to the 3rd string here, but the 2nd string there. Okay, cool. So now what's happening here? As you can see, that right there is going to be a square roll kind of on a D7. And that's just that right there. If you can use that all the time as a D lick. Again, it's all square rolls, so it's going to be very improvisable, very easy to scale, very easy to play fast. And it sounds very banjo-y. That's like, I love it. I'm in love. Okay, cool. Again, now this guy right here, let me scroll. That right there, that's definitely like, I definitely learned that from Newgrass Revival, Bela Fleck. But basically, it's a G7 going to C. When you have like that 3, that F note, that 3 on the 4th string, that note right there, that's an F, and of G, you're spelling out a G7. And so that is, again, it's a square roll. And then you get a thumb forward. So again, so this measure right here, boom, 3 square rolls and then a thumb forward. So it looks kind of involved, but once you can start to analyze the roll and see past that, you can see how it's improvisable. Okay, cool. So now we're going to go to the B part. Let's see what's happening here. Let's see. Okay, cool. So we're outlining. So right, boom, we're hitting the root of the chord on that C right at the top on the down of 1, and then we got that little 6. The little 6 again. This is a bum ditty in front of that square roll, except it's kind of like an index forward. You know what I mean? And then a 3-0-2 lick, of which this you should be familiar with. That's probably the very like the vanilla 4 backward roll. So that measure. Okay, so these two measures are the same, except the variation I did is in the 4 backward roll. That one, I put the thumb on the 2nd string instead of the 5th string right there, and I didn't have the 2 there. If you can tell the difference, I commend you, but if you live for the difference, you're like me. Hell yeah. Anyways, let's talk what's happening here. Yeah, it looks like that's going to be the same as this one when I get it. And this is improvised. Hopefully I tabbed it out true. But that's basic. It looks like the same. So those 3 measures. Okay, cool. Now this, I wrote these 2 measures are my favorite. Let me play those 2 measures so you can kind of understand what's going on. Oh yeah, that's good. So what I did there, there's basically a line cliche. There's just like a voice that happens on the 4th string. Or whatever, I don't know, but it's like, yeah, like I'm basically like, I'm outlining, so we're going from like that ba-da-da-da-da, then we're in the 6 minor, and then 5 and 1, and then G7, C. So it's basically like outlining the chords. But the trick here, so for some reason, I remember like this guy, Stacy, what's his last name? I forget his name. But his name is Stacy, and he played banjo at all the 49ers games. And I remember when I was a kid, I was like hanging out with him, and he told me if you like play, or like if you play those 2 notes, he says he has no idea why, but that's a B7. He had no idea why. I loved that. But anyways, that's a B7, which is the 5 of the 6 minor. So you can hear that kind of dominant motion that's happening. Okay, so the rhythmic motif. What is the rhythmic motif? Boom, square roll, boom, square roll. Square roll, square roll. Now you understand. It's thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 1, thumb 2 till the cows come home. So you can get this kind of thing going on. Square roll, square roll, square roll, square roll. It's going from 4 in a row to regular square, 4 in a row to regular square. And then it's going from basically like, it's going from like a B7, and then you're basically staying on that B7 right here. And then you go to an E minor for those next 2 beats. And then right here, it's like a D chord. It's kind of like a D6. And I'm not putting any, you could put a note there, but that's just too difficult. I like having the open strings. It gives a little extra color. But more importantly, it's easy to play, and you're gonna get an open sound. So anyways, those 2 measures are my favorite. If you can improvise like that, you're gonna sound fucking, it's gonna play easy, and it's gonna sound very banjo-y. Yeah, that's some good stuff. I really like playing like that. Again, it's the rhythmic motif and the line cliche that happens on the 4th string that ties it all together. Whatever, you get it. Once you play it, you'll make sense of it. Anyways, that's the Newgrass Revival G7 lick. And then this is kind of like a repetition. Okay, and let's see. So now, where does it get a little different? So here's the ending. Yeah, this is hip. I can't believe that of all the things I recorded, it was that one. Because I didn't write this out, but you'll see again, it's a rhythmic motif. what I was aiming for is I'm voice leading on the first string. I guess you could say it really starts right here. It really starts right there, going into that. So again, it's a B7 going to E minor, 6 minor going, yeah, it's the 5 of 6. So you're playing a B7 to E minor. And again, I start with a forward-backward roll. I guess, so let's just start the phrase there. So this roll, I think it's better to be understood, and it's kind of displaced so you can't see it. But it's basically like starting from there. The rhythmic motif is going to, it's 2 forward rolls and then a thumb one. But basically that's the rhythmic motif. It's 2, and you'll get this sound. Which is why it's improvisable. It's an 8-note thumb forward roll. Thumb 1, 2, thumb 1, 2, thumb 1. Literally the same roll as actually as the Bale flex scale. That's funny. But this is analysis. I'm not aware that I'm doing this when I'm doing it. But the thing that happens is the same banjo rolls are going to get used a bunch of different ways. And if you know your chords and you know a few like line cliches, you'll get all this different stuff that's going to be improvised. And that's really where banjo's the hippest. Anyways, so that's the index forward with the prefix. Yeah, and it's just going from B7. Yeah, there's a little bit of magic in there, I gotta say. But if you understand that the rhythm, it's displaced, so it's not going to be that obvious. But you're starting right there on measure 60, and it's going to be, those are the 2 forward rolls. It doesn't really look like it, but that's it. I wonder if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I don't like doing this because now it's a little displaced. But those are the 2 forward rolls, and then there's the thumb one. So that's the roll. And then... And then again, that thumb 1, 2, thumb 1, 2, thumb 1 happens again right there. So that's the roll. And it's displaced. Remember, it starts an 8th note early. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to zoom out. But that is the magic. Okay. Okay, now we'll go right there. Again, that's just kind of like a little bum ditty. It's an alternate thumb roll. That's out again. It's a square roll, of course. Again, I'm just going on autopilot with these square rolls. Yeah, and then just like a, square roll into a thumb forward. And then, of course, it's probably a middle reverse. I don't know why I didn't put it there, but it's going to be something like that. Okay, well, that basically concludes the series. Well, actually, let me show you, because I think there's an ending, right? Let's take a look at this thing. Here's the ending. What's happening here? Yeah, I'll use this a lot. Again, what's notated right there when you have all the strings like 0, 0, 0, that means a brush. And then, again, you're doing like the pinch. Pinch is on the offbeat. Like we said, bluegrass occurs on the offbeat. You can see that relative to the rhythmic measuring tape. That's why the pinch is there. You do a forward roll, and then it's kind of like a forward reverse roll, but instead the suffix is a middle reverse, is a alternate middle. And then to end it, you have this version of that Alison Brown kind of forward, backward, backward, forward, forward lick, right? Yeah, and then the trick right there is, yes, you can end it right there. That's the guy to know about. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to sign up for lessons with me, go to rickymeyer.com/lessons and send me an email. All these tabs are available on the Patreon at patreon.com/rickymeyer. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you. Peace out.